So welcome back. Uh, a lot of stuff has jumped off. We've seen a lot of movies. The Academy Awards just happened. Big news there. And the CineQuest Film Festival is coming up. So get ready for stuff coming from that will be on this channel. Hopefully we'll get some more interviews up with some filmmakers. Definitely have some more reviews. And we'll see what else comes out of that 2-week experience starting next week. So I'm excited to jump into that. But in the meantime, I want to talk about something I just watched recently. I'm a part of this sort of informal movie club group. It's kind of like what you do with book clubs, but with movies. So a handful of special people and myself are engaged in this movie club thing we do. Each of us picks a movie we watched that we hadn't seen. And I don't think it necessarily has to be a movie we haven't seen, but so far we've all selected movies that none of us have seen before. So that's been fun and really full of just fruitful and thoughtful, engaging conversation. And so the most recent one was picked and I got to see that. And I want to talk about this little film called Perfect Days. Let's discuss. So there's so much to say about this movie. And the first thing that comes to mind is, for one, this movie is not going to be for everyone. This is the case with most movies, most art. One person might like something and another person could see the same thing and feel differently. And that's part of the beauty of experiencing all these different types of arts and stuff. And the same is true for this movie, particularly because this movie is one of those slice of life types of movies, in that it is basically about the routine of one man going about his business, getting ready for work, going to work, doing his work, leaving work, going to some place to unwind, and then going home, reading a book, going to bed, and then he'll do it again the next day. That's essentially what we have. And that's what this movie is. But it's so much more than that. And I think because a lot of what this movie is about following one character along their journey as they do their routine for multiple days or whatever it is, we're really just getting dropped in on this person's life in a week, say. We're watching a week of this person's life unfold. That's not a specific time length. That's just my guess, because we're seeing what's happening to him over the course of a number of days. And that's not going to be the most exciting thing for a lot of viewers. It's very patient and thoughtful. The scenes have a lot of room to breathe. And if you're someone who appreciates that kind of thing, then you might appreciate this movie. It will be slow. It will feel slow, I think, for most of us here in the most modern audiences. But I think if you can stick with it and can get through the areas that feel slow, you'll find that there's a lot more beneath what you see going on. And it's a real gift of this movie. So one of the first things about this that struck me was this is a film, a Japanese film, film in Japanese, made by a German director and featuring mostly Japanese cast, pretty much all Japanese cast, with the exception of there's one woman I think I caught in this movie who was black, probably from African descent, born in the UK and living in Japan. And the film features American music, so American popular songs from the 70s and 80s. So it's a unique mix of this of cultures grounded in and play in a place that's distinctly Japanese. But it's really cool to see how the different mixing of cultures. So if you're not aware, like I wasn't, this film is directed by Wenders, who, as I mentioned before, is a German filmmaker who's had a long and storied career, directing documentaries and a bunch of stuff, a lot of narrative films too. He's been around. Didn't know who he was before this movie, but I've listed, there's several of his movies now on my list to watch after having seen this movie and after having heard from him talk about this movie and other movies that he's done. He had such a passion for this movie and for the story. This feels very much like a documentary. It's a narrative film, but it's shot like we're following this person as they go about their job, much in the same way you would see in a documentary. Like we're following a person who's telling us about their work. And speaking of that, an interesting sort of tidbit about this movie. So I understand that the germ for this movie came from an invitation that was sent to Wenders about coming to Japan to make short documentary films, little shorts about this project that dealt with toilets. So 18 or so toilets were being produced by architects, artists, and in these sort of public bathroom situations where we're going to be all around a certain area of Tokyo. And he'd gone there to talk about possibly making short documentaries on this project. And what came out of that was this movie. He couldn't do a documentary, decided that he was inspired by the projects, these toilets, but then that turned into this narrative film, which after having seen it, I think to me this feels like he did both. So he didn't do his documentary about this bathroom project, this public bathroom project in Tokyo, but he kind of did because those same toilets that were constructed and built and created by these artists and architects are featured in this movie. Which brings me to the character who works among these toilets. The film follows Hirayama, who was played wonderfully by Koji Yakusho, who, again, another actor who I hadn't heard of really. I'm sure I've seen him in some films, but I didn't recognize him in this movie. He is a toilet cleaner. This is his job. He goes around various sites across Tokyo and cleans toilets. And that's what we see him doing every day throughout this movie. Now, on the surface, of course, this feels like a lowly job, but he's full of like gratitude and appreciation for the simplest things around him. He takes such pride in taking care of his plants, and he takes pride in doing the work that he's doing. Now, personally, just as an aside, some of you know this about me, some of you don't. I worked as a custodian for several years, like 4 years, whatever it is. Well, a few summers, and then a couple years sort of combined. And on the surface, it definitely feels like one of those jobs that you're just like, oh, you don't want your friends to see you cleaning, classrooms, cleaning out garbage cans and going into cleaning the bathrooms. But there's something about that kind of job. One of the men I worked with, he was a veteran, Vietnam veteran. The way he spoke about the work, like, it is an honest job. I actually really found a lot of that work. First of all, it's not necessarily like rocket science. You're going in, you clean classrooms, you take out the trash, you clean the trash cans, you clean the bathrooms, you get all the, you clean the school and you clean all the stuff. You make sure that everything's looking nice and stuff. So it's simple in that way. It's, and you're using your hands and you're really in there just scrubbing and doing all the things and using, magical. I think one of the things I found most fascinating about the job was you get to see these other areas that you don't get to see during, regular life. Like as a student if I was cleaning stuff on campus, I got to go places that I wondered about as a student but could never go into. But as a custodian, or as a sanitation engineer is what some of the guys called it, we got keys that gave us access to like these secret places, these whatever was behind that door that led across the, it was like these secret, it's like this world that was opening up, and you got to use all of these crazy tools to clean stuff, and that was fun to see. And also, like, the other thing was like you're cleaning things sometimes that's ages old, like some of this dirt and grime has been there for before you got there, ages before you got there, and you're looking at it going, there's no way this is coming up. But sometimes we use some kind of gel or a certain kind of product, and magically the stuff came up, and it was just like, it was really like magic. And so that was kind of fun. And as I got older, I started to see there's a kind of meditative quality to cleaning something. I used to be really annoyed by having to clean certain things at home, doing the dishes, whatever it is. But it's a lot like cleaning a toilet. You just what to do. You know what to do to make it clean, and you just do that. You just take your time, and you really take some care, and you just do it, and it's done, and you feel you're accomplished. You got your thing clean, and it's good. And Hirayama is the sort of person. He takes great pride. He takes the job very seriously. He's got all these keys, and he travels to these different locations, cleaning these things. And it's really cool to see how much care he takes in something that's seemingly like a lowly job, but he has such reverence for it. And on his lunch breaks, he'll go take a walk and sit at a park and look at a tree, and it's kind of beautiful to sit there and watch him do that. He takes photographs, old film camera, takes pictures of sunlight coming through leaves on a tree. It's actually really, it's quite beautiful. And sort of that's the essence. That's the movie. Like every day, that's what's happening. That said, somewhere around the halfway point, things start getting introduced that disrupt his routine. He still tries to follow that, but he has to sort of work around the different obstacles and things that come up to maintain his routine. And the little things get revealed about him that it's not massive like you would see in a movie that's more Western. That's the other thing I really appreciate about this movie, that it's the way it approaches storytelling. Things we get to guess at certain things about him. We get little breadcrumbs about what his life might have been like before we meet him, and we can infer things based on what's said to him and how he, but the movie doesn't spell things out for us. And I love movies that do that just give us sort of what's there and then leaves us alone to sort of figure it out. Like don't spoon feed it all. But again, that's my personal preference. A lot of audiences are not like that, and that's okay too. But I definitely prefer when I can imagine things that sort of are not a part of the little window of time we get to spend with this character in the movie. It's very well written in that way, where it's written just enough for us to get little pieces, and then we figure out the rest, or we can guess at the rest. One of the things I love about this movie is how poetic it is. It's really lyrical, and there are certain things that are definitive, but there's so much room for interpretation for certain things. And I love that because as I mentioned earlier, this doesn't spell things out for you. It gives us stuff, and we put the pieces together based on what we see. And I mentioned the poetic nature of it, the sort of lyrical nature of it, because I want to mention the credits. So if you sit through the credits, at the end of the film, there's a word that appears, Japanese word, and that word is komorebi. The simplest way to explain it is that it's komorebi is the way light and shadow filter through foliage. It only happens once at that exact moment. how I see the rest of the movie, like the movie as a whole through that lens, it is like that's what each day is like. Hirayama goes through a process each day where he wakes up, he gets himself ready, brushes his teeth, gets himself dressed, grabs all of his stuff, goes to work. Before he goes, gets his drink, goes to work. Now, because that happens each day, doesn't mean each day is exactly the same as the day before. And so I think, I don't know how many people thought about it like that, but to me, looking back over the movie, Komorebi is like, that's what the movie is. Each day might be the same in terms of what he's supposed to do, what he actually does, but there's always some nuance that changes it from the day before. Maybe one day he might run into a kid who's trying to find his mom, or another day he might run into someone he sees out in the wild who one day is not there, there's like little things that shift. One day he runs into, a family member, and another day it's like these different things. It doesn't change his routine. Like his routine ultimately is the same, but what happens is maybe certain things shift how he completes his routine. That to me is like light and shadow filtering through foliage. The days are like foliages. It's the foliage that doesn't change, but the light and shadow does. So there's like these little, I don't know, it seems, and that's probably too deep thinking about it. But this is the thing about movies like this that are spacious and have a lot of room for things to happen, that there's a lot of space for us to just appreciate the atmosphere that's being displayed, to appreciate what we're seeing, what's being said in the dialogue, what's not being said, which there's a lot that's not being said. So there's room for us to sort of participate in that and imagine all the things that a person might be thinking when they're not expressing certain emotions or whatever it is. It's really, it's kind of cool. Something about it feels timely to watch it now. This is the kind of movie that I would see at the film festival coming up, or film festival, because some of you know this, that film festival movies, there's something about the energy at a film festival when movies are displayed. You might not always see something that is a big sort of blockbuster type of movie that's going to be picked up by a major studio and distributed widely. Most of the films you see at film festivals don't get that shot. Like, the film festival is probably the only time for a long time someone will see that film, in most cases. And because everyone's coming there, mostly independent filmmakers. You're lucky. The films who do get purchased by larger companies, larger studios, those are some of the lucky ones. The majority of films, and you're talking out of a couple hundred films, 200, 300 films, including shorts and things that don't really see the light of day outside of the festival circuit. And my understanding with Perfect Days, that this movie was nominated for an Academy Award. Again, whatever that means to certain people. I don't think it won. I think this was nominated for last year's Academy Awards foreign language film, and I forget what it lost to. And then Koji Yakusho did win. I think he won Best Actor at the Cannes Film Festival. So that did have some weight behind it. But it doesn't happen often for a film like this that's as patient and as contemplative and thoughtful as it is to get wide recognition. It happens, but not a lot. And I expect after having seen this film, I will probably see a couple films like this at the film festival coming up. And so it's a good sort of primer, I think, to get ready for watching a bunch of cool, unique movies. You'd be forgiven if you haven't heard of this movie. Again, I haven't heard. I just heard about it, learned about it just a couple weeks ago. It's really beautiful, like in a lot of different ways. Just for lack of a better word, it's just. I think there's a lot going on, and because it's not so busy with like stuff and busy with like dialogue, that it leaves room for us to see that there is still stuff happening, even though it's not like explosions and a ton of talking scenes, and there's like little universes of like stuff. One of the bathrooms, I'll say this because I think this is it's really sweet. One of the bathrooms, someone leaves like a paper in the bathroom, and that turns into this game, this sort of conversation with a stranger that they don't see each other. No one sees each other, but it's like, there's a spirit. You're connecting with someone on a spirit level, just playing a game of like tic-tac-toe, and it's really sweet. And you never get to know, I don't think we ever see the person, but it's just something about like just that interaction. On different days, Hideyama will come into the restroom and find the paper, and he'll play along. We're gonna play this game. All right, cool. He'll leave the paper for someone else to come back and do whatever it is. There's something like that. It seems like the kind of thing that only happens in movies, and it probably does for the most part. But I'm someone in real life who appreciates things like that. So even for people I know, like I might go to a friend's house, whatever, and like leave a treat, or something at the door in the mailbox, whatever it is. I don't have to see you that day. Like if I miss you, I miss you. I know I'll see you at some other point. But there's something that's kind of romantic about this, that level of interaction with another human who you actually don't have to see in person. But there's been some interaction in this way. There's been some connection, even if you didn't see them. There's something really, again, that's another layer. That's something that's kind of lyrical a little bit. I think it's kind of nice, and it was cool to see something like that pop up in this movie. So, Perfect Days, it's a perfect movie. I think factually, this is not going to be everyone's movie. I can say that with certainty. Because it's slow, that doesn't mean it's boring. But for some people, it will be boring. And I can't see most people getting past like the first third of the movie. But I promise, if you watch it and just stick with it, get to the halfway point, and then you're home free. Like just get halfway, and then see what you think. If you have seen it, I'd love to hear what you think. You might be surprised by what you find and about what it says for you, and how it actually makes you. It might. This is what it did for me. It just reminded me of the gift in the routine, the gift in the mundane. I like to think that I think about this stuff often enough to appreciate like the simple things, like having a simple sandwich, and doing the dishes by hand, like just doing something. But it's nice to have little reminders, because sometimes you can get wrapped up in the process of doing the mundane and doing your daily life that you're not taking time to think about the gift it is to be, first of all, be able to do it, because none of this has to happen. None of us have to be here to do it. That's a gift in itself. And then to be able to have the ability to use your hands to do something that you can feel good about, number two. And then just taking a moment to just pause and appreciate everything around you. Like it's kind of nice. Like I definitely did that today in my my morning routine, getting up, going to doing the workout, and being able to sort of take a little bit of time, sort of at least mentally, to appreciate the little gifts within that. So something to think about. Think about that as you watch this movie, because it's kind of good. So thank you for your time. If you stuck around, I'm getting out of here now, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.